So recently, I have been taking part in a group chat on Telegram. I would strongly encourage you to check out Telegram if you want to use it for things like group chats, messaging. I don't get anything for bringing that up, but I have found it to be a great tool to connect with a lot of like-minded people, whether it be about religion, worldview, philosophy, political and cultural topics. It's just been a boon to me, and so I would encourage everyone to check it out. The particular group that I am in, they have been discussing lately what a hot war in the United States would look like. And I want to draw a distinction between a hot war and a hot mess. We're already a hot mess. We see what that looks like. Yes, I said it. However, that being said, a hot war, and we're all familiar with the phrase Cold War from the very hostile position that the United States and the Soviet Union took towards one another in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even really into the early 90s. However, the United States hasn't been overall enmeshed in a lot of actual hot wars up until 2001, where we saw the introduction of foreign or American troops into foreign lands. And so it's hard for the American people to wrap their minds around what it would look like for the United States to be in a hot war. However, that's going to look even what's happening in places like Afghanistan and Iraq and other places is going to look far different than what would happen if the United States were to erupt into a actual shooting war between the Marxists and the Americans. And yes, I draw a very distinct difference between people who are born in America and are Marxists in their philosophy and ideology versus people who are born in the United States and have no desire to be part of the Marxist revolution that's taking place. So that being said, I want to talk about it from the perspective of what it's going to look like if this actually happens. And in particular, what I want to address is what is it going to look like for the military. There was a day where I would say that if the United States becomes a tyrannical nation and there is an engagement, if you will, of actual fighting in a civil war, I would have told you that I believe that anywhere from 85 to 95% of the people in the active duty military and also in the reserves and guards would have actively went AWOL, would have deserted the active duty military and taken up with Patriots. Now, why do I say Patriots in that respect? Because I believe that if a shooting war starts in the United States, it is going to come down to Marxist tyranny being brought in through elected individuals, whether it be at the state level or at the federal level, and ultimately we'll see where this goes after the election. But what would happen is that the Marxists win an election and they begin to target and they begin to select for elimination or re-education or indoctrination those people who they see to be a threat to the Marxist agenda. That's where the war will start. The violence will start with the Marxists. The Marxists will always be the start of the violence. Years ago, I would have told you, as I've already said, that 85 to 95% of the military would have abandoned any order to take up arms against American citizens. However, I don't see it that way these days. I would tell you that I believe it'd be closer to 60 or 70% today. And here's why. Take the United States Army as an example. Years ago, the motto of the Army was "Be all that you can be." And there was an emphasis on teamwork, that you were part of a team. And the Marines really stress that still. They very, very much stress that. And I have a lot of respect for them in stressing that. However, as we have progressed, postmodern thinking has permeated and sickened our culture. The Army changed its motto from "Be all that you can be" to "Be an army of one." There's an individual accelerant there. And what do I mean by that? The emphasis is on the individual. Now that sounds very American, but it's not. It plays into the mindset that everybody's a winner, everybody's victorious, you can do anything that you want to do as long as you set your mind to it, and we know that's not true. Everybody has the equal opportunity in the United States, but not everybody is going to have an equal outcome or even the potential of an equal outcome. So, that postmodern, everybody's a winner, nobody's a loser mindset has begun to permeate not just culture, but it's now bled into the ranks of the military and into the ranks of law enforcement. And the military has become, by and large, not a place to go to serve your country, but a place to go so that your country can serve you. And this has attracted, and we know this for a fact, gang members who go to learn military tactics. When they get out, they do their time, they go back, they return into their gangs in whatever urban area that they're from, and they use those tactics that they've learned in the military. Now, some of those people get changed in the military. They're like, hey, I don't have to live this thug gang lifestyle anymore. And still more, just stay in the military as a career. But there is a injection of this "I don't need a team" mentality. I am as good as I can be by myself. And I'm all for rugged American individualism. Like, go out and do on your own. Don't rely on the government to do for you. However, when it comes to the military, that mentality does not work. So how is that going to affect if a war breaks out? And let's say the Marxists win and they begin to try to use force against the Patriots. What's that going to do? The first time that a unit is called up and ordered to use force on their own people, you will see a sharp divide between people who are like, that's not what I joined the military for. I did not join to be used against the American people. I'm done. I'm not doing this. And they'll walk away, and there will be great risk for them. But that 40 to 30% that are just in it for themselves, who join to get the college money, who join to make money, to have a career, they will stay in. And they will have control of military assets, clearly. However, what they won't have control of is the manpower. And I do believe that a good 60 to 70% of active duty and reservists will walk away. They will turn on any government institution that orders them to use violence against their fellow Americans. Now, let's use the National Guard as an example. So when governors call up the National Guard to quell riots, is that an act of tyranny? No, absolutely not. Take Minneapolis for an example. Marxist, socialist, insurrectionist in the United States, through Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the new Black Liberation Army, the new Black Panthers, went into Minneapolis. They sowed the seeds of dissent. They worked hard and they worked very actively to rise up in Minneapolis to burn that city down. That's an act of rebellion. Those people deserve to be put down because what they were doing was not fighting for the liberation of the United States from a tyrannical force. They were fighting to destroy the United States by way of an active rebellion to be able to foster their Marxist mentality into the United States. So using the National Guard in that situation was phenomenal. Was a wonderful example of how the United States should use the military. However, that won't be the case if the Marxists win power. And I believe that if it comes down to it, based on the fact that the majority of people, and this is true, the majority of people who join the military are doing so out of a sense of duty and a sense of patriotism. They know that they despise Marxism. Even if they don't know what it's called, they despise it. They know that they despise people who despise the United States, who spend all of their time telling you that the United States is the worst country that's ever existed. And if those people were to take power in the United States and then tell these soldiers, you work for us now and we're going to restructure, we're going to rebuild the United States in the image of a Marxist utopia, they'd be done. There again, even if they don't know what they're fighting, they're going to be done with it. How that works in the favor of the United States is that those people will come out of the military, some of them in droves. It would be tantamount to seeing entire divisions in the United States Army walking away. Let's picture the 18th Airborne Corps, made up of the 101st Airborne, the 82nd Airborne, the 101st Air Assault, and the 82nd Airborne, the 10th Mountain Division. You're looking at some huge contingencies there. It would be tantamount to, let's say, the 101st Air Assault Division and the 82nd Airborne Division walking away and leaving the 10th Mountain Division there, and then eventually having to go to war with them. That's what it would look like. It'd be like 2/3 of the Marine Corps walking away and taking their weapons with them. So it would be nasty. It would be ugly. It would be very well-trained militias, very well-trained soldiers taking up arms against very well-trained soldiers. But what I believe you would see ultimately is you would see a war of attrition, where more and more of the people, the 30 to 40% who stayed behind in the military and were just following orders, you would see them begin to trickle away. You would see them begin to leave and take up guerrilla warfare tactics against an organized government war on the people. Do I have statistics to back this up? No. Do I have insider information? To some degree I do, and I'm not going to share too much of that. But it's something that we need to be ready to think about, because the Marxist powers in the United States, people like Tim Walz, Cuomo of New York, Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, there's a ton of people. Bashir of Kentucky. If they have their way, they'll never relinquish this power, and they will use the military. They would use the National Guard. They would use the military if they could on Americans who resist their authority. And so it is a potential. This might sound like a conspiracy theory, and there again, I've told you before, I don't care if you think I'm a conspiracy theorist anymore. I don't care. I'm over what you think of me. But the American military, by and large, would begin to abandon, to the point where the initial walkaway would be 60 to 70% of the soldiers, of the Marines, of the airmen, of the seamen, of the midshipmen, things like that. They would walk away, and then there would be a slow trickle away from there. to the point where the vast and overwhelming majority of the people who would be fighting would be the hangers-on, clinging to the power that they have, what's left of it, now trying to mount an ever increasingly aggressive military campaign against well-trained veterans, well-trained militias who know their land, who know their countryside, who know where to go, where to hide, where to set up ambushes, and on and on and on. Guys from Minnesota, guys from Kentucky, guys from Florida, guys from California who are assigned in one place are going to make their way back home, and they're going to take their tactics, their skills, and they're going to teach people that stuff. So that it's going to go from being a military on military war to being a government forces on patriots. And it's not going to be a north and south, an east and west. It's going to be pockets of guerrilla warfare coming up everywhere, just like during the Revolutionary War, during the War for Independence in the United States, back when it was the colonies. That's what you're going to see. And that's actually one of the things that defeated the British. Many of the people who ended up fleeing the British military were American patriots. And they took their skills and their equipment and everything with them. And they won. Now, I'm not going to get into outside influences, outside interference. All of that stuff is a very real potential. It's something we'd have to be mindful of. But that's what it would look like. And it wouldn't happen all at once. But there'd be enough people that would see the handwriting on the wall, and they'd say, I'm not doing this. I'm out of here. I know this is great risk. I know I could end up being arrested. I know I could be thrown in federal prison for a very long time for desertion. But they'll take that chance. They will take that chance. And here's what I will tell you, and this was a long time ago, 25 years ago. The United States government, the federal government, think the Bill Clinton years, had an active plan in place for training the United States military how to disarm American citizens. They had it. I know that for a fact. It was in place. Nobody's going to back me up on this, not publicly obviously, but for a fact I know this. So keep that in mind and encourage those people that are in the military today to remain patriots and to be ready to take a great risk if this election doesn't go to the conservatives, to the patriots. Because if it swings, it's going to look an awful like Venezuela very, very fast. Very fast. If Trump wins, it's going to look an awful lot like the war in Cuba. And we need to be ready for that. So notice I'm not talking about insurrection. I'm not talking about revolution. I'm talking about defending this country. We need to be ready for it. And then encourage those people that are in the military to remain patriotic. Truly patriotic. Constitutionally patriotic. Some of this may sound radical. Maybe this doesn't answer any questions. But it's something for us to be thinking about.